Hi, folks. Welcome back. I'm here with my friend Rok from Slovenia again. And we're going to be talking about kind of an obscure subject, that of synesthesia, which we'll define here in a moment. Before we get going, too, I want to recommend that everybody check out the links I'm going to post in the description section, links to my website, Patreon, blog, and also links to Rok's website and anything else he has going on that he wants me to put there. And, please like and subscribe and share this video and whatnot. And otherwise, hopefully this will be a fun and exciting adventure for you if you've never heard of synesthesia. So, Rok, thanks for coming on, and I'm going to ask you to define synesthesia for us,
Okay,
actually.
synesthesia. Yeah, basically it's a phenomenon where different senses basically speak to each other, or they are activated simultaneously. So, for example, if one hears a particular sound, he doesn't perceive only the sound, but also maybe color or smell. So, for
Right.
example, one hears a trumpet and simultaneously gets sort of a visual sensation of, say, yellow color, if that's the color he perceives or she perceives.
Right.
And some also smell sound, which is very rare. Usually it's connected with color, but some also smell it. So they would hear trumpet and they would smell, I don't know, onion like
Wow.
smell or whatever.
That makes sense. I haven't actually heard of that, but it makes sense. I know
Yeah.
that there was where I went to school for music, there was a blind violinist who was a phenomenal musician and
Hmm.
virtuoso, and he had perfect pitch and synesthesia, and he said he would taste the notes.
Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing and taste. So basically you have different senses
Cool.
communicating. Hmm.
Cool. And yeah, to be a little bit more specific, I kind of failed in my introduction here, but the reason I'm having Rok on to discuss
Hmm.
this is because him and I recently discovered that we recently discovered that the other one has synesthesia. Like we've both had it our whole lives, but we didn't know that the other had it. And
Yeah.
we're both musicians, we're both astrologers, readers, interested in esotericism and whatnot. And so we thought we would come together to discuss like synesthesia in relationship to divination and astrology
Mm.
and time and esotericism. And it's something that I think a lot of people either don't know about, because it's rare, but it's maybe not as rare as some people think. I've actually met a number of people who have it, maybe because I went to an art school.
Hmm. All right. Hmm.
But it's also something that can be used almost like sort of like a psychic sense. You can use it to
Yeah.
actually like read a person's energy and to like
Sure.
enhance your own reading capabilities. And I've been experimenting with that for the past few years, just here and there. It's not something you can really scientifically test, like we do with
No.
astrology. It's something
No.
you just have to go with it. And I mean, just speaking from my own personal experience with it, because everybody's synesthesia is slightly different. I don't have perfect pitch with music, so like I'll hear and see the notes differently in different contexts.
Hmm.
Things won't always be the same, but what will be the same for me is my synesthesia around numbers and around time. I can see the minutes, hours, days, months, weeks,
All right.
years, and so on, and I always
Sure.
see them
Hmm.
as looking the same. They always look consistently the same.
Yeah, like
For life.
from your childhood
Yeah,
onwards, right? Hmm.
yeah. So
Yes, the same
Saturday
in my
always
case.
looks the same.
Hmm.
For example, like Saturday as an energy will always look the same. Like December will always look the same. Like
Yeah.
2018 will always look the same,
Sure.
and
Sure.
so on. Like they'll just always look. So it can be a bit stifling to see time in this way. Actually, I've found, but it's also kind of cool at the same. time, no pun intended. So you
Yeah.
have a similar experience where you can also see time with synesthesia?
Yeah, basically everything, yeah.
Cool.
We have musical notes, different textures, sounds of instruments, letters, numbers, days, months, seasons.
Nice.
What else do we have? Okay, also smell and taste, but in my case, everything connects with the color. With everything becomes visual. So,
Cool.
for example, I eat certain food, and also there is a sensation of color. It's not that you know I get blinded and I just see the color, but in synesthesia, it's more like in inner vision. It's not that I said that I see letters and numbers in colors,
Right.
but it's no, you still see black letters when you read, but in your mind's eye, there's
Yeah.
this sensation of like a color filter, so to say. So it's
Yeah.
just you read and it's just,
Right. Yeah.
as if someone is changing color filters.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. I used to describe it to people as in relationship to music and sound as like my ears had eyes.
All right.
Yeah. And this
Sure.
is this is an automatic thing, as you point out. It's not something that we can like try to do or turn off or
No,
on.
no.
It's
I
just
mean,
always
I've
there, you know?
yeah, it's always there, but I've noticed that it's not as intense all the time.
Sure.
For example, in the evening when I'm tired, it gets less intense. It's still there, but it's not as vivid as, say, when I'm creating something in the morning, when I really perceive music with
Okay.
full colors. But in the evening, it's not so intense.
Oh, that's interesting, huh?
Hmm.
Maybe I'll keep a lookout for that. I'm not sure. I'm always discovering more about my synesthesia as I pause to
Yeah,
consider, like, oh, I'm also experiencing this synesthetically, and I always have, but I never really noticed it, you know? So,
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I only actually know one person who has synesthesia, the guitarist in a band that I play drums in
oh, cool.
during high school days. And he had it basically the same, also letters, colors, sound, but his colors were different. We were like listening to music,
Oh, okay.
okay, how do you see this, and he
Yeah.
perceived it differently. So it's not always the same, but it was interesting when I was talking to you. Um, we were perceiving things quite similarly, yeah?
Oh, yeah, yeah. In some
Similar
cases,
colors, yeah.
right. With when talking, we were talking about, for those of you watching, we were talking about like different mantras and the different like signs of the zodiac and
Hmm.
things like this. So we were just seeing like, oh yeah, what colors and textures do you see? And um, this started, this part of our discussion started because we were both wondering independently, but at the same time, I think about the colors of the planets and the signs and how
Yeah,
like the ancient books, they all give a slightly different scheme and whatnot. And I said, well, I've always just done it really simply in terms of practical delineation, where like to give an example, I'll just take the fire signs as red, like pretty
hmm
much like just very simply as like shades of red, orange, and stuff like that.
hmm
So, like one time I did a horary to find a book that has a red spine, but is itself white. And, it was like Mercury was conjunct the sun, and I think in a fire sign. And the
hmm
sun is also like a reddish orange color.
yeah, yeah,
And I
copper.
and it helped me to find the book. The book was right next to an ephemeris I had that was red. So the
Okay.
book was next to a big red book, and it was blending in with the red book, just like Mercury combust. Right, this big red book
Uh-huh.
was almost like hiding my book because I kept thinking of a white book, but the book had a red spine or something like that,
Uh-huh.
or I
Interesting.
forget it. The spine was, anyway, a different color than I remembered. I'm trying to look for it, but it's not immediately available. So in that context, like that worked great. I didn't have to like overthink the sign situation and look up in some table like, oh yeah, what color is yeah, I don't remember what fire sign it was. I think it was Sag, but um, which admittedly is, as we talked about, admittedly, I don't really see Sag as a pure red when I
Uh-huh.
synesthetically connect to Sag. I see more of like a kind of a strange, like dark red, dark purple, like kind of these darker tones mixed
Uh-huh.
into the red or like
Okay.
encased in the red, you know? Um, so I don't know how, but I haven't practiced like applying these synesthetic revelations of the signs or the houses or the planets to my astrology. Have you?
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about it. I mean, probably I'm doing it, subconsciously even. But yeah, when I was reading about the colors of the signs and planets, I thought, okay, different authors give different colors. In some points they agree, in some points they differ. And
Yeah.
I thought, okay, how did they come up with that? Were they just synesthetic, and they were just writing it down according to their synesthesia or not? And I mean, till today I haven't found really an answer to that. But
Sure.
yeah, it's a possibility. Why not? Maybe they were synesthetic and
It's
they were
very
doing
possible.
it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and in terms of, I mean, in terms of using this in astrology, I think we're both kind of just beginning to really maybe explore it a bit more consciously and like
Hmm.
see where it can lead us. And I think this is part two of like getting a feel for a planet or placement in a chart, like because it's every planet or it's not, and it's for those of you watching, like it's not like we would go, okay, I know synesthetically like how I experience Sagittarius and like the eighth house and Mars. And so like when those are all combining in that in a chart, like Mars, Sag, eighth house, like I'm going to add up the colors. No, actually, in fact, like that chart and that placement would evoke a whole new texture and color theoretically.
Right. Uh-huh.
That would be
Hmm.
totally unique to itself. That could allow us to really, better understand from like a more intuitive level, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. You said that you get the feel for the planet or, whatever. Um, and that's exactly what's happening, at least in my case. It's not that I would just use my synesthesia, to really define things. Okay, now this sign is such color, and now I will predict,
Yeah.
concrete things to be of that color. Not necessarily, but the
Right.
colors give me the feel,
The
Okay,
feel. Yeah.
what's the feel? What's the mood? What's the vibe of this factor in the chart? And this,
Right.
I think it's been helpful to me. I mean, I just, it's just there. It's just there. You can't do without it because it's there it's built in your body, in your perception. So
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Like I'm just thinking now as we're talking about this more that like Jupiter in my chart tropically is in Cancer in the bounds of Mars. And now when
uh-huh.
I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about like this blueness surrounding Jupiter, but then this like burning orange of the
Uh-huh.
Mars bounds, like this like burning bright kind of orange. And
Yeah.
I
You
think
get
I'm,
some,
yeah,
what's that color? Cyan, or what is it? It's
cyan.
like, yeah, it's not purple, it's not red, it's like some, it's purplish, but it's a
I think I
little
know
bit
what you mean.
stronger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could end up being like that, sure. But and this is where I think that as we're talking, I'm realizing that the visual of the chart has always been a really big factor for me. Like if I don't like the way it looks visually,
Uh-huh.
it disturbs me for some reason. It
Sure.
prevents me from reading, and maybe that's part
Mm-hmm.
of my synesthesia because we're translating the shapes and the images into textures and colors.
Absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is too confusing. I can't read this because it's just like
Mm-hmm.
it's ugly or it doesn't quite it's just not quite clear, so it's appearing like
Yeah,
not
yeah.
quite clear, you know?
I can't read charts where planets are colored,
Oh, that's
where each
interesting.
planet has a color. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it just
okay.
disturbs my synesthesia.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I typically like the planets to just be black glyphs if
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. I just have them all in the same color, and I choose I choose some background that's easy on the eyes because I find white to be just too difficult to look at for a longer period of time. But I just
Sure.
don't like signs and planets to be colored because I have my own perception of them.
Right. Oh, so not even the signs. Yeah, that's
No,
interesting.
no. Hmm.
Huh.
Although it's helpful to have them, in triplicities, you know, color triplicities, but I got used to work without that. Hmm.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I don't mind the signs being colored in for the circular charts for some reason, but
Hmm.
for the Indian charts and stuff,
I
I
don't.
don't I like just having the numbers, like in the
Uh-huh.
what is
Oh,
it? Is it
really?
the North Indian one? That's the
Yeah, yeah.
triangular one. Yeah, I like just having those numbers
Yeah, I
actually.
mean, the South Indian also has just numbers
Yeah,
originally for the signs.
right, right. Yeah, and I kind of like that. Sometimes it's nice not to see even the sign symbol itself because
Hmm.
sometimes that sign symbol can obstruct my ability to
Hmm.
connect with it organically.
Hmm.
And even I think even the planetary glyphs sometimes can be difficult for me to look at because I start to like overthink the glyph. Whereas if I'm just looking at like, how a lot of Jyotishis just write out like SA
Yeah.
for Saturn and so on.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
you just know it's Saturn. Like it's like forget about the glyph. Like it's
Yeah,
Saturn. It's like
yeah.
so it's a
Yeah,
different there's a different connection happening there. And I think, I have a feeling that this is actually, even if people don't have, even if a lot of astrologers don't have synesthesia, I have a feeling that this stuff impacts them as well, whether they know it or not. And I think that the more left brain the astrologer, the less they're going to care about these things.
hmm.
The more they're just gonna they just do it some way that, and they don't. But I think the more right brain the person, the more intuitive too is probably going to be more stifling if a chart doesn't look a certain way, or same with tarot cards. Just speaking from tarot cards, like I
Yeah. I
hate
can
it when
imagine. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
hate it when the tarot cards have words written on them,
Oh.
aside from the major arcana, because like there's decks where they'll name all the minor cards, like so they'll like they'll call like some difficult card like failure, and
Hmm.
then like when I draw that card, like all I can see is failure.
It's
I can't
failure. Yeah.
I
It
can't
totally
connect to the
suggests.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. I can't connect to the energy and the symmetry of the image, and so I actually find that when I use the French tarot, the Tarot Marseille, I think it's easier for me because the pip cards, they're just like very simple in terms of the imagery, and so it sort of like awakens that
Hmm.
synesthesia, and beyond the synesthesia, even sometimes I get actual like images, and a lot of times I get words too that
Hmm.
just sort of
Hmm.
pop into my mind. So yeah, I think we're kind of headed into like some esoteric
Yeah.
domain, when we're doing
Cool.
this, and it's fun. I just wonder how many, yeah, I wonder how many other astrologers will be able to relate to what we're talking about
Yeah.
here.
Actually, it would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think it's statistically one out of the 1,000 people have synesthesia. I think it's something
Oh,
like
okay.
that. So probably
Wow.
that would be some astrologers, I'm sure.
Yeah. Maybe
Hmm.
they'll come forward and we can do some more videos on it with them or something. For those of you watching, please comment if you have this and you're connecting to what we're saying here, of course. But so I don't know, like, what do you think are some other ways we can use the synesthesia to like do readings or
Hmm.
even make predictions? Like, I've wondered if I could see the actual date and year that something
Uh-huh.
was going to happen for a person. Like, I'm really curious, like if I could
Yeah.
see that.
Mm. I mean, one thing is that we could employ the days and the weeks, you know, um, and well, at least a hour and day ruler,
Okay.
because again, it's color, So intuitively, it could be, just because definitely, I mean, I don't know how is it with you, but when I speak to a person, you know, constantly it's colors happening, and not just with words, also, the vibration of their voice. So,
Yeah,
when
that's the
someone
big
is,
one.
yeah, when someone is speaking to you, you sense this, so they can say the same sentence twice, but with different vibration, and the color will be different.
Yeah.
So what I'm interested in is when a person, especially for horror stuff, when a person is asking a question, and when you can hear the voice, uh, you can then kind of be more pay more attention to the planet that you perceive in that color or that texture.
Oh wow, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, I mean
So
that'll even
that's
work
that's
for
one
their
thing.
birth chart too, because they'll
Yeah.
talk to you and ask you questions, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's pertaining to this planet in their
Mm-hmm.
chart," even if it's like a really obscure association, like
Mm-hmm.
because people oftentimes don't ask the clearest questions when they're getting a reading because they're usually confused.
Yeah.
That's why
True.
they're getting a reading, they're like, I'm
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
confused, I don't know what to do, please help me. And it's like, they might say something, and you're like, well, where the hell does this belong? But yeah, connecting to it more synesthetically, you'd
Mm-hmm.
probably get the answer a lot more quickly. So yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, because sometimes the answer is where you would not normally look at going by the book. You know, sometimes it's just that planet over there. It's not really connected in any obvious way to the ascendant or whatever.
Yeah.
But the answer is there. So yeah, I'm really trying to be more conscious of this, because I've seen, that yeah, I'm just using this constantly, but now I would like to, pay more attention to it, and
Yeah.
and I'll see. Maybe it will be worse, because it's such an intuitive process, I guess. So it's like. When you're playing a guitar and when you're really relaxed, you're just like, you're not overthinking it, you're just playing, everything runs smoothly. But then when you're starting to think what you're
Yeah.
doing, you're just
Yeah, exactly.
mm-hmm.
Exactly. I remember back in the days where I was a student, where I would be improvising and I would start overthinking things, and I'd want to throw in like a really fast scale or
Yeah.
something, just because it's like, oh, I've been playing for like 30 seconds and I haven't done anything really flashy. Like, let me try to like get this like flashy thing in there, and then yeah, it just breaks apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good analogy because in astrology is like so technical and there's so many layers to it that it can be easy to let the mind and the thoughts like take us sort of off the rails. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um as we're talking, I'm realizing that the biggest time that happens for me as I reading is like looking at the houses
Mm-hmm.
just seem in many ways like so they're like too concrete in some ways, and what they mean, they're like too limiting or too like non-luminous. And maybe that's why,
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned before we started the video, I don't really see the houses as like colors. I
Mm-hmm.
see them as like these dark textures.
Mm-hmm.
But the signs, I can really connect things people are doing very easily to the signs and to the planets. So it's like, oh, that's a Cancer thing that they just said, or
Mm-hmm.
a Cancer concern they just raised, or a Sagittarius kind of
Yeah.
perspective, but I won't think, oh, that's a ninth house perspective
Yeah, right.
or a fourth house theme. No, it's really the signs. But then, that's okay because one could then look at the sign that corresponded to that house. It's like, oh, that's a Leo
Mhm.
thing. Where's Leo in their chart? Oh, Leo's the 12th
Yeah,
house. Leo's the
right.
third house or whatever. You know, um, but I think it's really the signs and planets and maybe the nakshatras too, which are something I'm still a novice with the nakshatras,
Yeah,
but
I'm a
you know,
total rookie, I guess.
yeah,
I
but
I don't know. It's really weird, I never got into nakshatras, and
it's
yeah,
challenging.
maybe also due to the 1,009 amshas. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
the
just I
1,000
get I
items.
get I guess I'm more of a, I don't know, solar guy. I like
Sure.
Rashis. I really connect with the Rashis more. So yeah,
Yeah, well, I think they're easier
that's
to
me.
connect with for most people because there's only 12 of them. They have a
Yeah.
clear rationale and order, and they're
Hmm.
easy to memorize. So once you memorize them, for people like us with synesthesia, I think it's easy to it's easy to connect. But I do get imagery with some of the with some of the nakshatras.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do. The ones that I maybe know a little better, and part of it comes from the words too, or the names, like
Okay. Yeah,
Ashwini.
yeah.
Ashwini, for example. Like when I think of Ashwini, I'm not thinking of like the first part of Aries necessarily. I get from Ashwini, I get kind of this. I don't know, this very like rich kind of dark night sky color almost.
Uh-huh.
It's very interesting. But like with Kritika, Kritika, it's like it cuts and
Yeah.
it is about cutting, So um actually with Kritika I do get kind of a green for some reason.
Green. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
because it's
get more
Taurus.
like interesting. It's fiery. Agni is there, but
Yeah,
I
Agni
get
is
I
there.
but yeah, but I get like sort of sparkly, yeah, kind of a sparkly, even silvery color to it. So
Cool. Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to. The nakshatras don't really fully appear as just solid colors for me. They're
hmm,
more
yeah,
definitely
more
more
like
subtle.
mixtures, right? Hmm.
Yeah, they're strange. They're more loose textures or even a feeling that doesn't fully coalesce synesthetically, I suppose. But I
Hmm.
think it's a
Maybe
good. I think it's a good way to. Yeah, it's a good way to approach all of this stuff. If and for those who don't have synesthesia, well, sorry, you guys suck. No, I'm just kidding. No, but for those who don't have synesthesia, you guys can like still maybe approach it in this way. Like you can just meditate on these things and
hmm.
see what images and things emerge for you, like how it feels, like like when you say the word, when you like think about it, because I do think that everyone is like a little bit synesthetic,
A
in
little
just
bit, yeah. Um,
it has to be because like we're imaginative creatures.
yeah. I mean, I remember when I was asking my fellow musicians, okay, do you see music in colors? And I said, what, in colors? No, no colors. But I do see different scenes. So they're like hearing one song and they see like, a river flowing or something. There's
Right.
some association. So yeah, let's call that a soft synesthesia or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that can be used, because it's, yeah, I'm sure it's useful. Because
Yeah.
again, it's some association you're getting according to the mood of what you're seeing or hearing.
Right, exactly. And then connecting with that. A lot of times, so in addition to playing guitar, I also like to do freestyle hip hop. And
Really?
yeah, a friend of mine taught me how to do it, and
Wow.
I'm still not as good as him, in my opinion. He's like a master at it, but I have my moments and I've gotten better over the years. But like one of the things I end up doing is like when I'm really in it, I actually just let like both textures, colors, and images, like literal images, just flood into my mind.
Hmm.
And then those images immediately translate into words. Like I have an
Wow.
easier time doing the freestyle hip hop if I'm just seeing images than if I'm thinking. Like if I see a cloud, it's easier for me to like weave the word cloud and thunderstorm into my rhyme than if I'm
Hmm.
thinking the word cloud and thunderstorm.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm.
So it's a very interesting phenomenon, and I think this is this is really, a friend of mine says, like, imagination is not the same as pretend. Imagination is the image creator,
Hmm.
and that we can use these images that come to our mind to extrapolate real information. That's basically what clairvoyance is, or it's like a
Yeah.
certain type of clairvoyance. You see an image, and then sometimes that image is not so literal, so you have to interpret it.
Hmm.
But I found that it works quite well, and it works really well for doing readings. So I don't know if that counts as synesthesia, but it's like, there's kind of a fine line, I suppose.
Yeah. And some people use smell, in
Wow,
divination.
yeah, that's
Hmm.
actually a friend of mine, they had told me that they could smell a person when the person would be talking about them or thinking about them intensely. They would like
Yeah. Yeah.
smell, and they
I
would be
know a
right.
person like that also.
So I thought that was really cool. I'm like, wow, I don't have that, but I fully believe that. That is
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
unique and interesting.
Yeah. And they also smell,
Smell anesthesia.
smell anesthesia.
Yeah.
Yeah. They smell the person, and their intentions and everything.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's wild.
Basically, they're smelling thoughts,
Yeah.
So dark thoughts, evil thoughts, they have, a very strong, unpleasant smell, and so on.
Yeah, and I've experienced with synesthesia somebody telling me something, like a piece of information, like somebody was telling me a story, or that was not really a story, but they were telling me that they really had a feeling that this person who was like leading some kind of group, some kind of progressive group, had like murdered his girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
And like when they said it to me, not only did I get this like inner chill, but it's like I could perceive like the energy
Hmm.
of the statement, and I felt like both times they told me on separate occasions, I just felt like, yeah, this is true. Like this person really
Hmm.
most likely did this. Like it just had this energy to it. And who knows, I may never know if that's true, but part of divination and using subtle senses is you don't always get to find out if you were right. You have
Yeah.
to you have to take a chance. But yeah, I have been right about other things using that, and it's yeah. I mean, you understand what I mean, but it's very hard to describe it to people who don't experience this, because it's like, how, like, what does that mean? How are you seeing a statement that a person's
Yeah.
making? How are you seeing
Hmm.
that? Like it's not like it's not like we're seeing it in front of us. It's like, yeah, we're seeing it in here,
Hmm.
but not in here. And it's like, how do it's like both inside and outside.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean,
Yeah.
it's even difficult to explain it to ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember ever since my mother, I remember it when my mother was teaching me how to write, and already there, the letters had colors.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been perceiving, the world like this since then, since early
Cool.
childhood.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
thought it
yeah,
was normal.
I thought that it
I
was
thought
like
everybody, yeah.
everybody
As
does
a
that,
kid, I thought everybody had this. Yeah.
But I always wondered, what we were talking about, how I could use this. Okay, in music, yeah, sure. I mean, it's just like I'll never put together, two sounds that are of colors that don't fit.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's been useful to me. Um, but yeah, this is a new territory. You know what we are speaking here. You know how to use this. Does it have any use in divination? So it's something
Yeah.
to explore.
Yeah, it's exciting and it could open up something new in astrology. Maybe yeah, maybe one day we can like co-write a book on synesthesia and
Yeah.
divination or
Who
something.
knows? Who
You
knows? Who
never know,
knows?
right? Or not, or
Hmm.
not because, I think it's also wonderful to just experience these things and investigate them without trying to put them into a box.
Hmm.
But yeah, why don't we like before we wrap up, why don't we just see like what astrological factors do you think would potentially show synesthesia in a person?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't seen a single chart of a person with synesthesia, but I was thinking, okay, um, Venus rules the senses, so it has to be, included.
Me too,
Possi
yeah.
Possibly South Node Ketu, because it's, breaking the boundaries.
Sure.
Maybe Pisces also.
Pisces, yeah.
Um, and Mercury also has to be, somehow into this because it's our cognition and, the uh, neurological, connections in the brain. So, I mean, in my case, what I can see is that the 12th part of Venus is, tightly conjunct within 1 degree with Ketu in Pisces.
Wow, okay. Okay. That's
So
interesting.
there's one. And what else was there? Okay, Ketu is in a trine with Mercury on the south node.
I think also, I mean, you have a combust Venus, right?
Yeah,
I think that combustion might do something to it as well because combustion
it could.
always stimulates the planet, and
Mm-hmm.
Venus is the faculty of imagination according to the Sufi doctrine of the planets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in my case, Venus is with very closely conjunct Rahu.
Okay.
And I actually think that that might describe it the best out of anything. The only
Mm-hmm.
other thing I could think of is that I do have a waning moon in Pisces, so it's maybe a bit more open, but I also have Neptune casting a septile aspect to
Okay.
the moon, which
To the
can also
moon.
bring some kind of strange
Hmm. Okay.
experience.
My Neptune is in quincunx
Oh, okay.
to the moon.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that's another kind of I mean quincunxes are also strange sort of subtle
mhm.
energies it seems like.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, and the moon, of course, it's imagery.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, my moon is in Taurus, so actually I would expect, more moon to be in water signs for synesthesia, but there you
Sure.
go, it's in Taurus. So
Yeah, it's in Taurus and I don't know, I don't
but it's
remember.
it's square to Mercury,
Okay.
but not tightly.
Right, right. Yeah, it's kind of it's a tough one. Like we don't have any old astrological texts that
Let's
you
say,
know.
okay, this and this,
Yeah,
synesthesia.
but I have noticed that a person will tend to have like psychic abilities of, and I would consider synesthesia to be in that realm of kind of psychic abilities, like uh, especially when like the 12th Lord is involved with the
Hmm.
ascendant, or even actually like the eighth house too. Eighth, actually the water houses in general.
Hmm.
K2, Rahu for sure. And
Mm.
I know you have some of that going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have the ascendant Lord in the eighth with Rahu
Right,
in the
Ascendant
North
Lord in
Node.
the eighth with Rahu.
Yeah.
So that fits rather well. I also think that maybe too in the modern astrology, like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto making some kind of strong aspect to certain personal
Mm.
points could also bring stuff like this. They'll.
Okay, okay, I have Uranus in opposition with my moon.
Oh, there we go. That
Hmm.
makes sense. Yeah, because Moon and
Could be.
Taurus by itself, I'm like, okay, well, But yeah,
Yeah,
Uranus,
not really
sure.
synesthesia, you know, moon in Taurus.
But yeah, Uranus and Neptune especially do create like imagery. I mean, my experience with Uranus is it works more on the mind, whereas Neptune works more on the emotions, and then
Mm-hmm.
Pluto kind of
Mm.
works through everything down to the bodily level because it's all embracing and whatnot. So I don't know. I don't know about Pluto, but I mean, it would make sense because, like, for example, Carl Jung has Pluto tightly square his ascendant Lord Saturn, and he also has Moon, like, widely conjunct Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
And he had like a lot of, I don't know how psychic he was, but he had a lot of vivid dreams, and that's what his red book is, like his
Mm-hmm.
sort of meditational dream exploration of the archetypes. So I don't
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I would like to see it without the outer planets somehow, you know.
sure.
Yeah, although, you know, maybe this
He might have had
Uranus.
Uranus moon as well, actually. Uranus square moon, I think.
Hmm.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, it'd be nice to see it without the outer planets because
Yeah, I
um
don't know. I'm kind of, you know, a little bit reserved when it comes to outer planets because, you know, people can, you know, see everything. Okay, yeah, this is Neptune, you know,
yeah,
quincunx this, and it could be, it could not be, you know, maybe there's some stronger factor, you know, with the classical planets. So,
right.
um, but I'm not
Right.
saying, I'm not denying it. So,
Yeah, yeah, but
yeah.
I know what you mean. Like I think that when the classical planets are, or sorry, when like the moon and sun and ascendant lord are like closely and powerfully influenced by the trans-Saturnian planets, that's where I find them to be like more important. If
Hmm.
they're just in like everybody's going to have like some sort of trine or sextile to these outer planets, but I
Hmm.
oftentimes just ignore those aspects. I don't really, I mean, occasionally I see them as lending um, some kind of delineation, that could be something psychic or something like that. But I typically focus on them when they're square and opposition and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And that way, you sort of you keep it to a more minimal
Yeah, I
kind of
usually bring
influence.
them, you know, afterwards, you know, when I'm done with the classical planets, then okay, let's see
Yeah,
what those three
it's a,
guys bring to the table.
that's a good way to do it. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. Cool. Well, I mean, I think that sums up the video on synesthesia. Maybe we'll make another one in the future when we both have had some more time to experiment with it in our practice and stuff. But did you have anything you wanted to say closing?
I don't know.
Okay,
Probably
cool.
not.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for those of you who have watched, and I hope you found this helpful. Again, please visit some of the links in the description and hit like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. And um, again, both Rok and I have had synesthesia since we were, I guess, born theoretically. As far back as we can remember, we've had it, and
Yeah.
we're both musicians as well. So, you can check out Rok's music. I'm sure, right? You have
Yeah,
some
I'm
of his
just, yeah, I had a long pause and now I'm starting a live series, which is called Synesthesia, by the way.
Great. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be publishing live videos on YouTube, live performances.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And I know you've got some other stuff up as well here and there that I think is very good, even if maybe you don't because of all your Virgo stuff. I know how that can be.
Yeah, yeah, I've been putting this, you know, solo performances off for, you know, like 15 years.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
never good enough. So, yeah, now I just said, okay, enough of this crap.
Cool. Good. Good. Yeah. And I do have some music on Bandcamp that I've created with my brother. It's death metal. It's when I was really into death metal.
Uh-huh.
You can check that out. The band was called Karmic Ashes. You can search that on
Uh,
Bandcamp if you're
yeah,
interested.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, otherwise, like, check out, read more about synesthesia. It's really a fascinating phenomenon, and I think it does have a place in the world of astrology. So, all right, Rok, thanks for joining me for this
Yeah,
discussion.
thank you, Lars.
I'll see you soon. All right.
Sure.